we could say that enlightenment is a condition of consciousness where the non-dimensional reality of man has been realized.
Thank you, this is John.
Yes, John.
During the course of the discussion, the statement was made that there is no advantage to being either a man or a woman.
Yes.
In spite of how it might appear in the culture. I had a question about that. In looking around the audience here at different kinds of audiences of different kinds of teaching, like in religion or psychology, yet I would see that on the surface that there is an advantage to being a woman because the greater majority of audiences like this are usually women. Could you tell me what the meaning of that is, please?
Well, in our culture, there is a prevalence of women in every area of life nowadays, and I think there are more women than men. But certain people believe that women are more spiritually minded and receptive to spiritual reality. And if you would want to ask, how can we justify this statement? Well, perhaps we can say that women in our culture anyway are more unhappy, more discontented with their condition than men are, which is of course not as, I cannot prove this statement, but it would seem that way. And you know that the spiritual quest begins with suffering and a desire to find a relief from suffering. So maybe you could explain this, that more women are more unhappy with their human experience than men are. But it's not necessarily true, and it would be just a great generalization. Suffice it to say that when you are right, at any meeting and in any school and in any place where answers are being sought to the human condition, we find a prevalence of women. Can't hear you, Jan. I cannot hear you.
Can you hear me now?
Oh, yes.
Good.
Where were you?
I get to this from the early.
I see.
So a woman is assigned to, usually we say they do the cooking and the cleaning, and the man usually does the practical work. So there is a connotation there that one is less valuable than the other. Is it possible to be healed from the continue to do that kind of work and yet be healed from a feeling that is inferior?
Well, as Fern just opened the discussion, really with the answer to the whole problem, you see, it is not what we do or what we don't do that is the issue, but what we know about ourselves and about divine reality and our place in that reality.
For instance, I remember just recently had a discussion with someone who says, any time that I clean my apartment,
Yes.
I am very resentful and angry. And any time that I do the issue, I
Yes.
feel a great anger.
Yes. All right. So people naturally are most of the time angry because they have no solution to the human condition. Men are also angry.
Especially when they have to do the issue.
Well, you know the famous story about the two Zen monks who were very happy, and people asked them, "What's the secret of your happiness?" And they said, "Well, look here, chopping wood and carrying water all day long. Isn't that happiness?"
Chopping wood may be.
Now, what is the point of this story? This is sort of a koan.
Boy, yeah.
What is the point of it? That if you are enlightened, if you know who you really are and what reality is, then you don't measure your condition, your happiness by the type of work which you're engaged in. We are not what we do. We do what we are.
Dr. Hora?
Yes?
Dr. Hora?
Who, Laura?
Yeah.
Okay.
My sense of resentment that I feel in the role, womanhood role, seems to come not from the actual chore, your individual jobs, but the amount that I seem to put up with having to do more than my spouse.
More than your spouse.
For work. I don't mind doing the dishes necessarily. I mind doing the dishes and going to work all day and raising the children. And,
Yes. Yes.
and I feel the resentment coming from there.
Yes.
And I have a sense of putting up with it
Yes.
rather than nag or complain. And then I, get a lot of resentment around it.
Yes.
What could help me with that?
Well, now here again, you are measuring your happiness in terms of who is working more and who is working harder and who has the more onerous chores to perform. These are very naive and superficial ways of seeking a solution to the human condition. Well, suppose you want to work less than your husband. Do you think that you would not be angry and discontented? Everybody is discontented who seeks happiness in the human condition.
So what would be a good meditation as far as when I feel the resentment for lack of participation in what needs to be done rather than any specific job?
Well, you have to see life in a broader context rather than in the narrow context of your relationship with your husband.
So that I could take some gratitude in being able to do things, or not measured, is that what you're saying? Not being aware of...
Neither comparing nor measuring. You see, the Bible says, work out your own salvation. You are not going to solve your life problems by measuring yourself against your husband or anybody else and comparing yourself this way or that way. These are narrow-minded ways of seeing life, which do not lead to any solution. They only lead to envy, jealousy, rivalry, and malicious hostility. And you will there is no such thing as equality. because equality means measuring and comparing. It's a very naive idea to fight for equality. We are fighting for realization of transcendent reality. So it will not help you to try to compare yourself to anyone and to measure the energy output and the quality of work which you are doing and the remuneration which you are getting. You see, in divine reality, there is no justice.
Yes, I can see that.
Neither. Now let me finish this. Whenever I say that there is no justice in divine reality, people immediately think that there is injustice. Isn't that what you were thinking?
Yeah.
Yeah. Now there is neither justice nor injustice. There is only love intelligence. If God is love, then God doesn't have to think about justice, equality, or injustice. Everyone is fulfilling himself and his life completely without regard of anybody else. There is a story in the Bible when Jesus was giving certain assignments to his disciples. And Peter, he gave Peter an assignment, and there was John in the background, and Peter says to Jesus, "And what will that man do?" And Jesus said to him, "What's it to you?" You see, we have to all work out our own salvation with God without looking left or right or comparing ourselves or even fighting for justice, because it's a misdirected concern. What we need is not justice, but more of the light. It is the light which will set us free. Jesus didn't say you will fight for equality with your husband and that will make you free. It's you shall know the truth and the truth shall make you free.
Thank you very much.
You're welcome.
Dr. Hora?
Yes.
This is Betty.
Yes, Betty.
Often when I've caught up in the idea at home of too much to do and I'm kind of in a doing frame of mind as a wife or mother, the thought comes to me of the principle, God helps those who let him.
Yes.
And I've never, it seems like there's a key in all the material world and things that we have to do or that need to be done in that principle, but I've never really understood how I could apply it. Could that be applied in that situation?
Well, that can be applied in any situation. What does it mean to let God help us?
That's what I'd like to know.
Yeah. Well, is there someone among you who knows that?
Does it mean, Dr. Hora, to let the perspective of the living soul or the divine contact come to our attention?
Yes. Well, we usually don't let God help us because we have preconceived notions of how things should be so that we could feel good. Now, since you have introduced this topic, it seems very clear that most of you assume that if you could sort of equalize the miseries of this life with men, if you could arrange that men should be just as miserable as you are, then that would solve the problem. Equalizing the misery, sharing in equal proportion the unpleasant aspects of life. If men could be made to suffer like women, then that would solve the problem. But of course, that's childishness. Wouldn't solve anything.
So that would not help us with that.
No, yeah, I mean, yeah, that's we don't let God help us because we cling to our preconceived ideas of how things should be and how they shouldn't be. But if we are willing to abandon that kind of reasoning, the wanting and the shoulding, and allow ourselves to listen with a receptive and open mind, then God inspires us with the right idea, which then helps us to improve our condition without regard of someone else. So God helps us when we let Him and abandon our preconceived notions. You see, this principle dovetails with the second principle, which says, take no thought for what should be and what shouldn't be. Seek ye first to know the good of God, which already is.
Dr. Hora?
Yes?
Would you say then that God helps us on the level of if we're receptive, giving us the right idea?
Yes, certainly. God is a cosmic mind, cosmic consciousness, and the way we receive God's help is always in the form of ideas, right ideas, which provide us with answers to the dilemmas of life and the human condition.
There is a principle, nothing comes into experience when invited.
Yes.
It's not being judgmental and see that large workload would be invited. Doesn't actually invited when we have that thought that you or the other. What are we inviting? Or what is actually inviting that thought?
Well, the very thought that we are unequal and we are victims of our gender invites corresponding experience. We shall experience life in accordance with our fantasies or our parents' fantasies about what it entails to be a man or a woman.
Yeah. Well, actually, it is not the workload that is making us angry. It is that preconceived idea that invites to see it that way.
Well, certainly it is never the actual activity that is the problem. It is always our thoughts about it that is the problem. We don't suffer from conditions. We suffer from our viewpoints on these conditions.
Dr. Hora, my name is Anna.
Yes, Anna.
I'd like you to comment on the meaning of the Apostle Paul's statements in Scripture about wives' submission to husbands. That seems to have caused a great deal of difficulty and problem. Could you clarify that, Dick?
Well, it's not much to clarify except that Paul has voiced certain ideas prevailing in that culture in that period of time. You know, Paul wasn't a completely enlightened man, and when it came to these issues, he just accepted the prevailing fantasies of that culture. And the Pope is still carrying it around.
So it is essentially invalid remark.
Yes, of course.
This has been to go home, passed over.
Yes, we neither submit to each other, nor control each other, nor wrestle with each other, nor cooperate with each other. Metapsychiatry has presented a more existentially valid concept of coexistence between the genders, married or unmarried. We are joint participants in the good of God, regardless of gender.
Dr. Hora, this is Michael.
Yes, Michael.
I think in that Bible context, that the woman submit to the man submit to Christ. But wasn't that just an avenue for which the woman should submit to Christ?
Well, it presupposes then that a woman cannot submit herself directly to the Christ, that man has to be the mediator between her and Christ, which puts her into an inferior role even in relation to Jesus Christ, which is nonsense.
You made a statement earlier that said we do what we are. Could you elaborate on that, please?
Well, you know, the Taoist sage, Zhuangzi, you may have heard of him, said, the way to do is to be. Being precedes doing. Now, the feminist movement is based on the assumption that a woman is what she does. If you do some important work, like you're a celebrity or something, or an accountant, or you are an executive, then you are somebody, because what you do determines what you are. On that basis, there is a great deal of discontent in the world because you never do important enough work. No matter how high you climb on the ladder of success, there is always somebody who is doing even more important work than you do. And most of the time, it's a man. So how can a woman find happiness in this life, right? So you don't judge people by the work they do, only by what they know. What we know about reality, that's how far we have come on the ladder of fulfillment. And that leads to harmonious prospering. See, what we seek is not equality and not success and not failure and not competition and not rivalry, but harmonious prospering in life based on enlightened understanding of our true identity in the context of God.
If we are a non-dimensional living soul,
Yes.
that's what we are, then what do we do?
What do we do? Whatever is needed, whatever is good, whatever is beneficial. Today I was raking leaves. That's good, isn't it?
And Hora, this is Alexander.
Yes, Alexander.
I said that was a good thing for a man to do. That's why we're laughing.
Yes, our Mrs. Hora can rake leaves too.
Yeah, Dr. Hora is Vera.
Vera?
Yes,
Which Vera?
Vera from the new Vera.
A new Vera.
Yes,
Nice to meet you, Vera.
nice to meet you too. I'm still pondering on why is I didn't get it. Why is more women in a healing group, and seems like long time ago I'm observing this one, and it seems like the leader or the sister is most of the time
A man.
man.
Yes.
Although I understand for myself, I'm coming to this kind of meeting to heal myself, to uncondition myself.
Yes.
Most of the conditioning, what I feel I would like to get rid of or understand, is put it by female, by mother. So it seems like the female put conditioning in a child, and then later on, the male on conditioning.
I'm not sure I can understand your point, Vera. You mean that women are blamed for the problems of the children? Is that it?
Most of the kids that we have more conditioning from mother.
Yes. Yeah.
Mothers that spend more time with the children at home.
Yes. Right. Right.
And later on, we are unconditioning ourselves by male.
What do you mean by unconditioning?
How to understand what's the problem or why am I coming to this kind of meeting?
Well, of course, in metapsychiatry, we have women teachers too, you know. Have you met Anne Lindhorst yet?
Not certainly.
No? Well,
It seems like it's more less women in this kind of field.
fewer women, you mean?
Field.
Fewer women. Well, Vera, the whole point of our talk today is about transcendence of the gender concerns, transcending gender problems and gender ways of seeing life in terms of gender inequalities. So that is the point. And so it's no use speculating about how many women are in the classroom and whether the teachers are male or female. If someone is going to be a teacher in metapsychiatry, he will have to be way above such concerns about who is a male and who is a female. These issues must be outgrown.
Thank you.
You're welcome, Vera.
Dr. Hora,
Yes?
this is Linda.
Yes, Linda.
As an extension of what she was said, sometimes when I am at work, I'll be there until late at night, maybe midnight, and I won't go out into the parking lot alone. I wait until a man will walk out with me.
Yes.
I have to admit that I resent having to do that, but yet I feel like I am really the need to do that. Women have been attacked in the parking lot.
Yes.
What you're saying is that this is all this issue in consciousness, and that I don't need to worry that the rest of the culture feels that a woman is unsafe alone as long as I know I'm safe alone?
Well, you see, if you reach a point where your thinking is not in terms of equality or inequality, justice and injustice, but in terms of spiritual reality, then God will always provide you with the intelligence to move about in this world in a prudent and safe way. And you won't have to speculate about whether women are less safe or men are less safe. You will ask yourself, am I thinking intelligently? Am I prudent? Am I moving about in this life in an intelligent way? Where do I get my right ideas? Do I get my ideas from the sea of mental garbage or from divine mind? And so you will not see that particular situation in terms of gender inequities, but in terms of wisdom and love. We have to elevate our perspective onto every aspect of life to a higher level, which is the transcendent viewpoint on existence, rather than the cultural or the relational viewpoint. Broaden your mental horizon. The Bible says, enlarge the borders of your tent.
Dr. Hora?
Yes?
I understand what you're saying, and I think, or at least I comprehend, and I can see that in that frame of mind, how it is a narrow frame of mind to think that you must be protected by another person. But I think I may need to have a way to go. I still cannot picture myself walking out into the parking lot at midnight alone.
Nobody said that you should do that.
But okay, maybe would it be that would be prudent to do that at that time?
Under present conditions, it wouldn't seem to be prudent for you to take risks. If the community where you live is an insecure community with lots of crime, or it would not be prudent to do that. So you find a way of securing your situation, and if a man can provide you the protection, that doesn't make you an inferior person. It's just a way of moving about in that situation intelligently.
I see. So the issue then is intelligence and not sexual difference.
Exactly. That's right, Linda.
It appears to be a issue to sit down on sexual difference.
Of course.
But it's the same way as saying that we are spiritual beings, but we cannot cross the freeway of truth.
Yeah, yeah.
Uh,
Unless you have learned to float.
I was just well, we don't have to feel inferior that we cannot
That's right.
stay on truth.
That's right. Not even a man can do that.
Dr. Barrett, this is Marilyn.
Yes, Marilyn.
Fred really hit it on the head when he made the statement, or for me, that we both love and hate the idea of being a man or a woman.
Yes.
And I seem to be caught in that, and wanting a relationship and then hating it, or wanting to be needed and then hating it.
Yes.
Notice that now I am often experiencing a lot of very female symptoms, which I'm sure is all part of this manifestation. Could you help me with this?
Well, if you're experiencing female symptoms, well, that would indicate that you're entertaining certain thoughts of resentfulness about being a female. That's very simple.
Yeah. I kind of thought so.
So you stop thinking of yourself in terms of gender and pay a great deal attention to the fact that you are a spiritual being, a divine consciousness, a living soul. And that is what you really are. And when your thoughts are focused on that reality, then there will be neither pride in femininity nor resentment of femininity. The whole issue will fade out of consciousness, and there will be no occasion for symptoms.
Yeah. But there a meaning to this desire for completeness with another person, or to care for fusion?
Well, there is a natural desire for completeness in all of us, but completeness cannot be attained through fusion with another person. This idea flows out of the fact that we are judging by appearances. Completeness can only be realized on the spiritual level.
Your spiritual completeness?
There is no other completeness but spiritual.
What is spiritual completeness?
Spiritual completeness is the perfection of being which is created by God. A living soul is not only complete but also perfect, even as the Father in heaven is perfect. And the more you understand yourself as a living soul, the less occasion there will be to have any symptoms in your body, because you will be living in divine consciousness rather than in a physical body.
Thank you, Dr. Hora.
You're welcome.
Dr. Hora, this is Georgiana.
Yes, Georgiana.
As we're talking, it's occurring to me that I must be filled with all sorts of fantasies about being a woman that I'm not even in touch with. What would be a helpful way to come to see these more clearly? And what do we need to do?
Yes. Now, the more you meditate on being a living soul, Georgiana, the more you will discover how your preconceived ideas are rebelling against this new idea. And you will experience all sorts of resistances in your body. The body kicks up a fuss against the new insight of being and thereby you will discover the many hidden ways that you cherish being a female or hate it. All this will come up into your awareness to be discarded. The Bible describes this struggle the following way. The flesh warreth against the spirit, and the spirit against the flesh. Be not deceived, God is not mocked, for whatsoever a man soweth, that shall he reap. They that sow to the flesh shall of the flesh reap corruption. They that sow to the Spirit shall of the Spirit reap life everlasting. So, in our quest for realization, spiritual enlightenment, we experience a certain inner turmoil, where the body seems to be rebelling against our newfound sense of identity. But that is a very wholesome struggle, which eventually will fade out of our lives and we find our peace.
Okay, that's very helpful. Earlier this week, I sprained my ankle while leading an aerobic class.
Yeah.
And prior to that, I was really struggling with some issues about my mode of seeing that had to do with being a woman. And I think part of the struggle started in my ankle. So that was very helpful. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Dr. Hora, this is Joe.
Yes, Bill.
Do you have some help in decision making in a partnership?
Decision making in a business partnership?
In a partnership with another person
Yes.
and a wife.
Yes. What is the question?
For man and rib. That was the rib. No, I need some help. There always seems to be in a marriage or a situation like that. One is making a decision.
One is making a decision.
Is it can a equal decision be made on buying a car or a house? Yeah.
No, on the spiritual plane, we never make decisions, Bill. We are guided. And we know what we are guided when there is PAGL about any unfolding situation.
Well, any unfolding situation requires everybody.
Yes, right.
And so there would be there would never be a case in a decision that if a decision was made and it would not let everybody, you could just assume that it would have a spiritual decision.
Most likely not, right.
Thank you.
You're welcome, Bill.
Dr. Hora?
Yes.
Harry?
I beg your pardon?
Harry?
Harry?
Harry.
Oh, nice to meet you, Harry.
Larry, there's an air.
Larry. Oh, Larry. Okay. Speak to the microphone.
Better?
Yes. Come closer, Larry.
Get two people. Don't better that. Yes, don't hold the mic too close to your mouth. Get two people working together on growth and relationship.
grow spiritually to the point where they grow out of spiritual inequalities that have brought them together. What is to hold them together? Or what is the benefit of staying together if they rise above the masculine and feminine identities that brought them together in the first place?
Yes. In other words, it's hard to conceive that anybody would be interested in staying married once he has reached a high level of spiritual realization. Is that your idea?
That's it.
Don't just yes.
Jan said yes? Well, you discover the good life, which is really good. And there is such a thing as companionship and compatibility within a companionship, which is far superior than anything else below that level of realization. So that it is still very good to be married, even though marriage has here an entirely different quality than before. It is hard to explain it. You will have to realize it.
Thank you, Dr. Hora.
You're welcome.
Dr. Hora, this is Ilona.
Yes, Ilona.
I was wondering how the issue of sexual preference comes into this manhood, womanhood, attitude, the whole idea of gender.
Yes.
I have a client who she thinks she's a lesbian. She's never had a sexual experience with another woman, although she finds herself very desirous of women. She says that she is, I guess there are 5 children, there's 1 son, and she's of course the daughter. She says that she feels she has disappointed her parents by being a woman. She does not feel like she is a man, but she has always felt that she has been a disappointment to her parents, her parents, because she's a woman. And I'm not really sure what the question is, but it's difficult to discern, I guess, a meaning in all of the whole sexual preference issue.
Yes. Well, as you know, psychoanalysis and psychotherapy is completely helpless in face of this issue of sexual preference. Homosexuality and lesbianism and heterosexuality. When you understand metapsychiatry, these problems turn out to be what is called red herring problems.
I don't know what that is.
False issues.
False issues.
Yes, it absolutely makes no difference whether you are lesbian or heterosexual, except that these labels give you the justification to be preoccupied with sensual ego gratification. And you blame the parents, and you blame circumstances, and you blame inborn tendencies. But actually, it is just a way of excusing and explaining a certain kind of attachment to the first gate to hell. You know the first gate to hell? We have 5 gates of hell.
Would it be sensualism?
Sensualism, sure. So don't be impressed by when somebody tells you, well, I'm disappointed my parents because I'm a woman and I am a lesbian. You're not a lesbian. You just like to indulge yourself in sensualism.
Yeah, she said she really enjoys weightlifting. She's a weightlifter.
Well, the whole point, you see, yeah, the problem disappears when you understand the five gates of hell and the absolute necessity to get beyond it in life.
Okay, thank you, Dr. Hora.
You're welcome.
Dr. Hora?
Yes.
As I understand that the ideal relationship is to be with a mate with whom you can have joint participation in the good of God.
Yes. But that's not a relationship.
Yeah, the ideal.
Relationships are inherently flawed, troubled. You can never have a good relationship with anybody. So when you either speak of a relationship or you speak of a joint participation in the good of God.
Yes, the joint participation was what I was thinking of, because the question I had was that it sounds as though being in joint participation is an added dimension. And I was wondering if that is the ideal in the way that it's something that can't be experienced if a person is alone and not in joint participation.
Oh yes, you can experience PAGL even if you are alone. But it's not an added dimension, it is a whole nother smoke.
What do you mean by that?
It's not something that you add to a relationship. It is an entirely different mode of being in the world.
Thank you, Dr.
You're welcome.